Bienvenido al 305, la casa de los peleadores libra por libra.
Fights with the champions rise 305 donde suben campeones. Man, I am in great company. I don't have nothing to worry about. I have Esquire Mr. Martinez here with me. Tell everybody your full name, sir.
Thank you, Daniel Martinez, attorney at law.
Excellent. So all my worries are over.
There you go.
I can defend myself in the cage, and now have somebody defending me in the courts.
That's right.
Now, Mr. Martinez, I want to thank you so much. You're involved so much in martial arts and the combat sports, and you do so much for the martial arts arena. So thank you very much for that, for your work.
My pleasure.
And because I believe, and we were talking about earlier, that coming together and networking, unity is power. That's why our symbol is unity is power. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from.
Sure. I'm originally from New Jersey. I was born in Morristown, New Jersey, or Newark, New Jersey. Moved to Morristown. Came down to Florida when I was about 14, 15 with family. My family's from South America, from Uruguay. So I always had, my boxing was always very big part, culturally, big part of my background. We used to watch the pay-per-views back in the day. Julio Cesar Chavez, Duran, all that stuff. So fighting was in our blood, so to speak.
Used to go a lot to Secaucus, New Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah, and had family up there in New York and New Jersey. There's a lot of Cubans, a lot of Latinos.
Of course. Union City.
Yes, Union City.
Of course.
Exactly. And you mentioned the boxing, and we talked before that you have a martial arts background yourself.
Right. I have trained. I've done karate, martial arts, boxing, etc. I've never competed in martial arts. I've competed as a boxer before. Obviously, I never wanted to do MMA. I did train in MMA, but I think you'll agree with me. I never want to take an elbow to the head or a knee to the head, because with my luck as a lawyer, I'd get like a stutter or something, and then all of a sudden, then no more attorney. But so boxing has been what I've competed in, but I've loved combat sports my whole life.
I think that one of the appeals of mixed martial arts that is so dynamic.
It is.
And it is physically, training-wise, and technically ruthless, because like you said, you can get punched, knocked out, and the knees and elbows, I call them the can openers,
right?
Because they open anything.
They're fight enders.
Exactly. They're fight enders. What's so great? A gentleman with your education, professional, an Esquire, that has the background, is now in combat sports and in martial arts and helping the community. I think that's awesome.
Thank you.
I think it adds. We were talking about how all this adds. In fact, he mentioned something. He says that if we network together, everybody can grow together and everybody can eat together.
Right.
I'm kind of a crazy guy. I belong to a Chinese temple, and the master was telling me that the master asked him, what's the difference between hell and heaven, right? So he took him to a room that supposedly was hell, and there's monks sitting around a bowl and spoons like this long. And then took him to a place called heaven, and the bowl was empty and the spoons were still that long. So he says, well, why is it heaven and hell? And I said, well, I think hell is because the guys are hungry, they can't eat. And he said, why can't they eat? I said, because the spoons are too long. He goes, well, how come it worked in heaven? And I said, I don't know. He goes, because they took the spoons and fed each other.
That makes sense. There you go.
And
so each individual was feeding others. Not yourself.
And that's what I think we're doing. And that's what Different Fights is, a platform for people to feed others, to share and to service and to grow and to become champions. Make sure you check our event, January 30th, 2021, adults, January 29th, 2021, junior adults. You're invited VIP with us.
Beautiful.
To be there and enjoy the show.
Good. I'd love to be there.
Let me talk a little bit about your experience with combat art and combat athletes.
Sure.
Because I know you met a lot of the superstars and deal with a lot of stuff.
Absolutely.
Let's start first with mixed martial arts. Okay, let's start first with what happened in the UFC. We saw like Glover Teixeira. He's just reinventing himself.
Absolutely.
He's in a winning streak.
I love that. I love that this sport, think about that. That's a great point. You make a good point. In what other sports do we see these guys reinvent themselves later in their career to change styles perhaps, or to just completely change their dynamic in the ring? And that's what Glover Teixeira is doing, I think. And a lot of guys have done that. And you don't see it in a lot of other sports. Even in boxing to a certain degree, you don't see it. But in MMA, you see guys reinvent themselves. It's a dynamic sport. If you're not great if you're not particularly a good stand-up fighter, you could be a better jiu-jitsu fighter, or you can switch up your game.
Same theme. UFC tonight, Dos Años.
That's right.
Here's a Guerrilla and reinventing himself in a new weight class.
Right.
What do you think? How do you think he's going to do in that weight class?
It's tough. I don't know cardio-wise, how it's going to affect him. I don't know where his power is going to be, but I mean, he's an experienced fighter, so I expect it to go. I think it's going to go to a decision, and I think he's going to get the win. Quite frankly, that's my prediction.
That it is going to be an exciting fight. A lot of people are saying that he would have to take it to the ground because he has more experience or forte than in the striking, because they say pretty match, striking.
Right. I agree with that.
But one thing I agree with you. I would like to see how his power, his cardio, how he feels at that weight. It takes time to get to get at
right. And who knows after weigh-ins? But it depends too, because we're saying at that weight, but we don't know what's going to happen after weigh-ins, because he could very well blow up. Some athletes do that. I mean, I don't know what his camp was like. We'll see. This is going to be a very good experiment.
And now you brought that up. When I'm training fighters, like they say, okay, you're fighting at 145. So they say, okay, I'm going to train at 145. I go, no, because you're not going to fight at 145. You weigh in at 145, but after you weigh in, you know what you're fighting at?
Right. Beyond that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think,
in the 150s.
Right. So I think you should train at that weight, and then you cut the weight to make it, but train at the weight you're going to fight. That's a very good point. Other things happening in the UFC, exciting things happening. Well, they just canceled the Amanda Nunes fight.
I'm disappointed about that.
Yeah,
she is outstanding.
She's incredible,
electrifying.
And out of South Florida, Dade County, we have a great association with American Top Team.
Of course, who doesn't?
Shout out to all those guys. Shout out to American Top Team, Nova Beach.
We saw some of those guys last night at Bare Knuckle.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yoel
was there. Yoel Romero.
Yes.
You know who else was there? Timbaland, of all things.
Wow.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
We should get to that. That's a whole other chapter.
Yeah, we'll get to Bare Knuckles. Interesting things coming up. The Poirier McGregor #2. I don't know, is it going to be exciting? What's going to happen with the fight?
It's a big money fight, I'll tell you that much. But I don't know, do you think that it's going to have more buys, pay-per-view wise, than Masvidal's last fight? I don't think so.
No, I think that I don't think so. But I think people want to see McGregor back in the game.
Of course.
So that's going to
fight anybody.
I don't think it'll sell that much, but it'll be a seller.
I would have liked to see somebody that McGregor has not fought though. Because he's fought Poirier.
Yes, that's how I feel.
I wanted to see him with George. Maybe that's because I'm a little biased, because he's South Florida boy.
Right.
I like George.
But I'll tell you what, I think that would have been a better fight also.
I agree.
Me also.
For the fans, I mean, seeing that, because that's a dynamic stand-up fight. They're both great boxers. That's the one thing I want to see more of.
They say, everybody says they would like to see McGregor again with Khabib. I believe, first of all, if Khabib comes back, which is going to be very difficult, we'll talk about that too.
Right.
If he does come, I think he'll fight somebody like George St. Pierre, somebody he thinks is going to bring more to his legacy, and
perhaps do something for the sport.
Yeah, and for him now, it's more like not about the money; it's about the respect and the legacy and whatnot.
Khabib, but Khabib doesn't have to fight. Let's be real about Khabib. And here's what I respect about him: has he ever lost a round? I mean, has he lost a round? I mean, perhaps when he fought McGregor the first time, I think maybe that was as close. The first round was as close to Khabib having lost a round, and I don't think it was a clear loss for him. But he's never lost a round, so I think that he's got the GOAT status in my mind.
And I'll tell you, Dana White is talking to him because what he's trying to convince him is that his father would
wanted 30-0.
30-0.
Right, of course.
Even though he promised to his mother. And Khabib is kind of guy, so he's got the money right. For him, it's now at a different level.
And he doesn't care about money.
Right.
I mean, I mean, of course, everybody cares about money, but he's got other things.
He's at the level where he cares about the sport, the martial art, and the legacy and everything like that.
And his faith is very important to him, and his image, and I love that. I mean,
yes.
I love that people, whether you're a person of faith or not, I love people that have conviction.
Yes.
Like Muhammad Ali did.
Correct.
I like people that stand up for something.
Yes.
Whatever it is.
Correct.
And believes it. So.
Right. No, we agree. That's why you see through fights, we have respect and honor.
Yeah.
We have, like you said, you have to. There's a saying: if you don't stand for something, you fall for everything.
Right.
And so I'm 100% with you. Jumping to the bare knuckles.
Let's go. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, Dade County, South Florida. I mean, was killing it. We had Luis Palomino Baboon with Jim Adler's. It was Broward County, Dade County fight. What do you think about the fight?
I mean, was there a bad fight? They were all outstanding. And I was really pulling for Kenmon Evans. Did you see that one?
No, I'm sorry, I missed that.
That was the first one. He's from New Smyrna Beach. He's my client, and I sponsor him. But we've known each other for many years. He's with Pete White Boxing.
Okay, yes.
Pete White is outstanding boxing coach, outstanding guy, hell of a friend of mine. But I saw Kenmon, and Keenmon, I guess is they call him the King. Have you seen this guy's jab before?
No.
He whips it. I mean, this is, think Tommy Hearns.
Oh,
But
wow.
he just whips it up. And he just won by outstanding fashion, and everybody did.
You know, now that you mentioned the coaches in the schools, I want to show respect and honor to all the coaches, all the schools, all the leagues. You guys are in the trenches with all the people that are supporting combat sports and martial arts. Unity is power. If we can be of service through FFI TV, I know that Mr. Martinez can be of service. You reach out to him. What is your social media handle?
Martinez.law.321. Because 321 is Brevard County. So it's
Okay.
like, that's my 305.
Okay,
you know,
excellent.
321.
Excellent. You know, down here in Florida, it was very mixed because everybody knew both fighters.
Yuli? The Yuli one?
No, the Palomino.
Oh, Palomino.
Yeah, and you know what? We had someone from
Palomino won that one.
Yes.
And it was stopped, right? Pretty early. Or was it in the second round?
Yes, on the second.
Early in the second, I
Yes,
think.
yes. And
Was it the towel? No, that wasn't the one.
No.
It
It was a.
We'll talk about that one.
Yeah,
Too.
and he set up the right hand with the jab.
That's right.
We had Jahaira from one of the academies here. She was putting her money in. You know, she mentioned something that if we went technically, he might have a little bit more experience in the striking.
That's right.
You know, Uli Monster.
Uli Monster.
We just had him on the show. He's a friend of ours. A shout out to D.
Oh yeah, I
Sports.
saw him on the show.
Yeah, Game Time Management, all those people. A great job for him. It was 3 seconds.
That's right.
You know?
If that.
Yeah.
I think it was 2 or 3.
But you know what? People see that and they think that happened like by accident. Like the McGregor when he ran, Masvidal when he
Masvidal.
ran and do the flying knee. No, those things are planned and practiced, and those are very tactical.
Right.
And those are very, very important. There's a lot of things happening. Bellator is happening. They're coming down.
Icon. Don't forget Icon and Roy Jones Jr.
Yes.
And I'm very particular with Icon because I gotta be honest, I'm a little biased. That's the one I sponsor, but I love it because it's got Roy Jones Jr. is involved, Roy Jones Jr. boxing, and they do half the card. It's totally unique. Half the card is boxing, half is MMA.
Yes.
And Bella Mir fought there, Frank Mir's daughter.
Yes. Well, we have a gentleman. We went to a school to interview him. He has a fighter fighting an Icon.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it was awesome. We talked about that. And you mentioned something I want to get to. Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. What do you think about that?
It's tough for me because as a kid, and you'll probably agree with me with that, who better to grow up loving as a boxer than Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. For different reasons. Mike Tyson was the anti-Roy in a way. Roy Jones Jr. was very technical, was a great technical boxer who fought at multiple weight divisions very successfully and defended titles. And Tyson was Tyson. I mean, that was my hero. So it's tough for me to see them fight because they're both my heroes. Nevertheless, I think that it's going to be tough because they're older. They're a little bit older. We haven't seen them fight in years. So what's going to happen? Who knows? It's going to be exciting. That's all I can tell you.
First of all, I want both of them to be in shape. So
it looks like they are.
It lasts at least 4 rounds of good boxing. They look like they are. Again, I said earlier, Mike Tyson, the last thing to go is power. Timing.
That's what Roy said too. Roy even admits it.
Right.
He said that on the record. Last thing to go is power.
So this is what I think. I think if Mike Tyson, even though he's devastating, if he does his peekaboo style, I think he's going to end it quick. If he tries to do technical boxing with Roy Jones Jr., who's one of the best technical boxers, I think it's gonna be a lot more difficult. And people have canceled out Roy Jones Jr. like if he's not even going to be in the fight. I think that's a very big mistake to do.
Absolutely, and I will tell you this: that although everybody is quick to crown Mike Tyson, and rightfully so, he's a great boxer. I mean, I like Mike. I love Mike. However, we've seen these clips for 30 seconds. 30 seconds, we've seen these uppercuts and hooks and these power, but let's see that over 3 rounds, and 3 minutes, and then let's see that over 5 rounds of 3 minutes. That's very different, and I think that he might just go right into Roy's wheelhouse.
Right.
If he acts like the fight's only gonna be 30 seconds, that's gonna be tough for Mike.
Win, lose, you got to look at the facts. Roy Jones Jr. was active longer, inactive less.
Right.
He trains boxers, so he's in the gym.
He's always in shape.
Okay.
Roy's always in shape.
Okay, he, and I mentioned earlier to the other fighter, was the only fighter in a championship fight a whole round not to get a glove landed.
I heard that.
I mean, there's a lot of things happening now in combat sports where you see boxing coming into MMA, MMA boxing. Actors de la Gloria has Golden Boy.
Because boxing used to have an antagonistic relationship with MMA,
Correct.
and I'm so glad. That's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up. I'm so glad that boxing, and that's why the icon Roy Jones Jr. thing that I just brought up. It's a synergistic thing. They work together. They should work together. I don't know what's up with the competition with these. You can't exist because I exist. Let's both exist.
I really like the concept of the old UFC, where you would see a boxer with a wrestler. I mean, the combat sports should come together. I mean,
and they have, because if you're absolutely right, because now nobody just does one discipline. You'll never see somebody say, "Hey, I'm a Shotokan fighter. Let me go do UFC." That's unheard of, because they'll say, "Well, what's up with your ground game?" What ground game? No, that doesn't exist. You have to be a well-rounded fighter. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
But boxing is now accepting, because I think MMA used to have this sort of like a cock, the cockfighters,
right,
like this whole like illegal underground smoke show thing. But now it's become legitimized and it's become commercialized. They're saying, okay, now it's okay. You can eat at the same table as us. But nevertheless, there's too much inner competition. We need to
and a lot of things are stemming, like you said, from this. You have the bare knuckle that's stemming from this. You have all kinds of leagues.
That's right.
You have the one in Asia, which is huge.
Right.
And over
there's like the one something, and the Pride is, I don't think Pride is still around, but there's something that transitioned from Pride into something else. And there's Bellator.
Correct.
And there's Empire, too. That's a newer one.
Yes.
That's up in Mississippi.
Exciting time for combat sports and entertainment. What do you think?
I think so. That's why I'm jumping in the ring myself.
That's right,
in
you
February.
are.
I told you.
When is it?
February 27th.
February.
So tentative so far. There's no opponent yet, but my plan is to fight at Island Fights in February.
Correct.
Yep.
Island Fights, one of the first ones. Yeah. Awesome.
The plan was, because I turned 40. I hate to put this out there, guys, but I turned 40 on March 13th. So the plan was to fight on my 40th birthday and to do some sort of a social media thing to say, hey guys, just like what you talked about, it's never too late to get back in the ring. It's never too late to compete. So I wanted to demonstrate that. I don't think we're going to get to do it on my 40th birthday, but we'll still do it.
Of all the famous clients and people that you know, I hate to pick only one or maybe one or two that highlight that you think are an example of combat sports, martial arts, or championship.
Right now, I'll tell you, young up-and-comer, Phil Rowe. Fresh Prince, they call him, Phil Rowe. He's young, he's an up-and-comer, but I think that he is everything that MMA should be about. What do I mean by this? He loves the sport so much. He trains 2 or 3 times a day. He's always desiring to get better. He doesn't sit back on we know a couple of other local fighters that'll have some success and say, okay, I'm good. I win this way. Not Phil. Phil is trying to evolve and get better all the time. That's a champion. Somebody who's never satisfied. Like me, I'm a sick maniac. Like I don't want to just win. I want to win and I want to paint. In Spanish, we say pintar de la cara. Los uruguayos dicen, le quiero pintar la cara. That means we want to embarrass our opponents. Yeah. Because if you want to be the best, you want to be better all the time.
Yeah.
That's what Phil exemplifies. So I'll say Phil Rowe. But as far as a legendary celebrity client, Roy Jones Jr., that guy, I mean, he's been in the game forever. He's never stopped boxing. Again, we talked about Mike Tyson. He's had his own inner demons, which I will give him a lot of credit. He's attacked his issues as well. But Roy's never gotten away from the game. He loves fighting. He's still training. He's in his, I don't want to say, I'll let Roy tell you how old he is.
A shout out or something to our Latin America, Central America, Caribbean.
Claro que sí. Muchas gracias por mirar 305 Fights, ¿cómo querés decir? La pelea 305, 305 Fights TV. Excelente para el deporte y queremos para la participación de todos los países.
Para darles las gracias por todo su apoyo, aquí tienen un pequeño regalito. Ahora ya estás listo para cuando quieras del boxeo, te metes en la jaula.
Dale, muchas gracias.
De 305. Muchas gracias a usted.
Y yo también te traje uno.
Sí, yo tengo una. And I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this,
so
and I want to ask you a question. This is great. I want to ask you a question because, in the business side, in the entertainment side, there's the legal issues.
Right. I'm glad that you brought that up. That I try to the big proponent of keep your mouth shut. I hate to say it, like individuals, when it comes to your rights, you need to let the lawyer do his thing, just like I would let the fighter do their thing, just like I expect the trainer to do their thing. It's the division of labor. So if you have an attorney, well, first of all, any scenario that you think you need an attorney, you need an attorney. All right, so that's whether you get pulled over by a police officer, whether you're doing something right or not, wrong or otherwise. I've seen things go bad for people, so you always want to assert your rights. You have constitutional rights. I have videos that I put on the internet that just basically, I say, you know, in the movies, you have a right to remain silent. Use it.
Correct. And especially, look, especially now when you're an athlete, an artist, an entertainer, you're going to be a figure, you're being exposed to
100%.
100 things. You have to think business, you have to think legal, you got to get representation. You said a very good point, which I tell always, you know, through our resources, and now you're one of our resources, that we can put you in contact with people. If you got to get good managers, you got to get good leaders, you got to have a team. I think it's a team effort. What do you think about that?
100%. You need a team. You really do. But you need people to look out for your interests. And the beauty of what I do is that I don't, even though we say we can all eat from the same trough, we talked about that earlier, when it comes to business relationships, you want somebody that eats from a different bowl than you. Meaning, you want your accountant to have his own thing, your lawyer to have his own thing, et cetera, et cetera. That you have to specialize. You have to just really use your resources. That's what people are there for. Don't think you can do everything yourself.
Yes.
When I call Domino's, I don't tell them how to make a pizza. I just let them do their thing. So that's what I do when I contact you about these things. I know that I can rely on your professional.
Well, you know, honestly, I'm glad I met you because you're going to be hearing from me.
Thank you very much.
Because I need a champion in my corner also. I'm very firm. I believe that, you know, what does Lao Tzu says? He who knows does not, he who speaks doesn't know. So
I'll do you one better. Yeah. My favorite quote in the world. If you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome.
You want to surround yourself with people that are better. I don't mean better. You want to surround yourselves with successful people that will elevate you. They want to see you do better, not people that are going to bring you down.
I like that word. The word is going to elevate you.
Elevate.
You know what I call them? Success coaches.
That's
people
right.
that are going to be my success coaches.
I want to see people do good. I'm the biggest cheerleader in the world for people.
Excellent. And you know what? That's what we want to do in different fights. Check out our social media, check out all the information. We can contact you with all these people.
I don't just do criminal defense. I do family law, personal injury, contracts, etc. I'm basically a hired killer. Okay? I help people. If someone's got an issue, I help them so that they can focus on what they do. So that fighters can fight and not worry about their courtroom struggles.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
So we're in your corner. Different fights. Martinez 305.
Sunset, nightfall, as the crowd filler stands for the night brawl. My determination, something off the chart wall. Bounce his head off the canvas like a damn ball. In the octagon with bright lights, and I'm repping 305 fights. You want a bad boy? Come and let me